Massive trigger warning, by the way, this gets dark very quickly. I haven't got laid in a while and it's really getting me down. A support group. I'm sure I'll be able to share my feelings with sympathetic individuals and find some life-changing advice. Oh. I've been aware of incels for a while and was planning on addressing this phenomenon at some point, but then some monumental dickhead decided to go on a killing spree in Toronto. He was motivated by his identity as an incel, thus bringing them and their ideology into the public eye, making this video horribly appropriate, and everyone else on YouTube is talking about it, so why not? The term incel is an abbreviation of involuntary celibate, meaning someone who has gone without sex despite wanting it or trying to obtain it. Definitions vary, from suffering a 6-month dry spell to perpetual virginity. The latter is the most extreme form, but is by no means necessary to the definition. I'm going to distinguish between involuntary celibates, people who can't have sex but not out of conscious choice, and incels, which I'll take to mean those people who identify themselves by that label, have some involvement in the so-called incel communities, and embrace at least some of the sentiments that community expresses. I'm going to lay my cards on the table and say I've never been in a relationship or had sex. I basically fit the definition of an involuntary celibate, and therefore I think I'm in the perfect position to offer my view on this topic. Involuntary celibacy happens for all manner of reasons. Poverty, disability, mental health and or self-esteem issues, a lack of knowledge as to how to actually go through the courting process, or even just bad luck, like not being able to find the right partner. For me, it's a combination of factors, but mainly it's because I'm boring. Being lonely and sexually frustrated sucks. It really does. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean. But with self-identified incels, a group entirely composed of men, this frustration has made them easy targets for an ideology that twists their mindsets and destroys their personalities. As with other extremist groups like neo-Nazis or Islamic terrorists, their confusion and frustration becomes anger, and this anger becomes hate, and as we all know,
hate leads to suffering.
The pain of and blame for their celibacy is directed outwards, at women, at other men, and at society at large. They see themselves as victims of oppression by a vast conspiracy of evil manipulative women they call Stacys, and genetically superior males they call Chads. Yes, they genuinely see themselves as oppressed, and curse the normies who are able to achieve what they themselves desperately crave. They refer to their decision to embrace this hateful ideology as taking the black pill, a more noxious and fatalistic form of the red pill that online misogynists use to justify their bullshit as being woke, ruining one of my favourite movies in the process. This black pill ideology provides an easy answer to their problems, a way to dismiss their suffering and shirk any responsibility for it. Incels are doomed to a life of loneliness because they were born with a genetic disadvantage that makes women overlook them, and there's nothing they can do about it. Now, it quickly becomes obvious that this isn't really about involuntary celibacy. Firstly, there are women who are involuntarily celibate, but incels violently deny this and refuse to acknowledge that women might also have the same problems, which is especially funny given that the term was actually coined by a woman, who understandably now wants nothing to do with it. Second, if it was about sexual frustration, they could save up for a hooker, or go to a club and find someone equally as repulsive, or just jack off. It might not be the same, but it's better than being a jack-off. And if it was about romantic frustration, they'd take a good hard look at themselves and straighten up. They could probably find someone as lonely and desperate as them to go out with, or just lower their ridiculous standards. But no, they won't resort to dating down, because they think they're entitled to sleep with the most beautiful women, this despite them having the looks of a monkfish and the personality of a bin bag. And they feel slighted that they don't get to do this. Hilariously, a lot of the time they couldn't give a shit about a woman's personality, while insisting that their own personalities should be enough to justify them getting pussy. It's about gratification, status over other men and power over women. And in their world, women are the enemy. As you can imagine, this mindset has some nasty results, which manifest themselves mainly on incel forums and subreddits. These are supposed to be supportive places, akin to self-help groups, but Alcoholics Anonymous don't let their members get away with saying stupid shit like, "All bartenders are whores, let's murder them." These support groups quickly devolved into wretched hives of scum and villainy, where their members vent their anger by expressing some of the most disgusting, offensive and reprehensible sentiments I've ever witnessed. And I've seen a lot of shit on the internet. Sometimes their misogyny overlaps with blatant racism, solidifying their eligibility for Time's Next Person of the Year. The most exemplary of these human piles of excrement just straight out advocate rape, sex slavery or murder as acceptable responses to not getting their dick wet. I have no words. Due to this and a plethora of other violent unpleasantness, their main hideout, the subreddit r/incels, got banned last year, but they've taken their collective hate vomit elsewhere, to places like incels.me, which features such delightful threads as, "Can lesbos be incel? If all low IQ females were sterilised, there would be no incels. Age of consent laws were created to prevent incels from having relations with still innocent jailbaits." And of course that timeless classic, "Why women should not have rights." Oh, but we have a right to free speech. And I have the right to criticise that speech. Now fuck off. At its most extreme, incel hatred becomes violent. Between them, these three smegma stains murdered 25 people and injured 36 others. They aren't the only incels who've turned murderous, and they almost certainly won't be the last. Now we can argue about cause and effect until we're blue in the balls. On the one hand, in terms of getting them laid, their tactics are clearly about as effective as posting "let me smash" on some random girl's photo. Hit me up, baby. Oh yeah. Look, if no woman wants to sleep with you, what's statistically more likely? That there's a problem with over 3 billion women, or there's a problem with you? Let me use an analogy. F***ing doors! That's how stupid it is to blame women for not wanting your penis inside them. Women don't owe you anything, and almost nothing is more unattractive than the sense of entitlement that underlies your attitude. But incels trap themselves in this bubble that they can't help themselves out of because they don't want to anymore. And they drag down every other man who struggles to experience a romantic connection, comes across these groups looking for advice, and then gets fed a load of bullshit. But as easy and gratifying as it is to do so, it's not helpful to call involuntary celibates pathetic or losers, as many in our society are eager to do. All that does is make involuntary celibates feel more ashamed and isolated, making them far more susceptible to becoming full-blown incels. Can we just agree that you're not a loser if you're an involuntary celibate? You're a loser if you make that the core of your identity and use it as an excuse to lash out at innocent people. Is that fair? Doing the research for this subject was a bit harrowing for me. Not just because of the vile material I had to go through, but because the whole issue hits a little too close to home. Like I said, I've never had sex or been in a relationship. I don't want to pour my heart out too much, but it used to really bother me. What if I had come across incel forums in the past, when I was confused and angry and in a much darker place? Would I have taken the black pill? I doubt it, but I can't be sure. And that's why I can't bring myself to condemn all incels entirely, because I know that all that hatred is coming from a place of pain. Many of these men are mentally ill or socially inept, and they need help, not scorn. No, I'm not saying we should redistribute sex or bring back slavery or any of the other ridiculous solutions that have been put forward. I'm talking about genuine support groups, counselling and programs designed to deal with their underlying problems, change their mindsets and improve their chances at romance. And in the longer term, a shift from a culture that puts so much emphasis on romance to one that just doesn't give a shit. Unless it is addressed, involuntary celibacy will continue to affect a significant demographic of society, but it doesn't need to, and those people deserve a chance at finding happiness as well. Except the ones that kill people, f*** them. That one got a little personal, didn't it? What do you guys think? Am I letting incels off the hook too easily? How can we as a society address this phenomenon? Let me know in the comments. If you like that, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell for future content, check out some of my other videos, like and share to help the channel grow. Any single ladies out there, feel free to slide into my DMs, please. And until next time, stay cynical.